Hello, and welcome to another episode of Give It a Year, my podcast diary. My name is Jenny Q, and I am an artist, an author, a storyteller, and a Canadian. And now, a podcaster, I suppose. This podcast diary is a place that I have created that is a pocket of positive space where you get to just come and drop in and listen and relax. I personally was finding the world a little overwhelming in the cyber world of so much anger, division, fear-mongering, and selling. So much selling. Oh my goodness. So I figured the world could use a space where it was just sharing. And what better place to share than a diary? Today's episode is called SCRABBLE. And today's episode is about a short story that I wrote in 2018, and it was about my dad who passed away in 2002. I'm not going to get into a whole lot about it right now. I will share more details at the conclusion of my reading, and then wish everyone an amazing rest of your day, and that'll be it. I do have 4 podcast promises. They are listed in the description. If you ever have any questions about those, just drop me a line. And without any more hesitation, let's jump into the story. I recommend pausing the recording and getting yourself a blanket, a pillow, possibly a beverage or a snack, so you can sit back, close your eyes, and enjoy the story. I'll wait. Welcome back. SCRABBLE, an original story written by J. Kaspira. With a roll of the dice, as they slipped out of my hand, I knew that I had lost. It was my last roll and chance. I lost the game because I needed that Yahtzee. Only 2 more 6s, and yet staring back at me on the table were 2 1s. As I looked at my father, I smiled, and I knew that the game was nowhere near as important as the time we were spending together. My thoughts drifting back to when I was a child, and I thought my father hated me, or at least did not like me so very much. I based that opinion on the fact that he did not tell me he loved me. Not once do I recall him saying those words to me. The disbelief and disappointment in his eyes when I could not recite the 9 times tables without stopping or crying. The way he was more interested in cleaning up my mess than the painting I just created for him. You cheated, I accused him with a smirk on my face. Did not. I'm just that good. The smirk slips away and is replaced with a straight face and a tear. Yes, you are. I whisper more to me than to him. Thinking of the fact that I had to leave in the morning to catch my flight home made me lose my breath and shed another tear. Shall we play another game? I asked as I collected the dice and pens, placing them in the Yahtzee box. No reply. Dad stood up and he shuffled to the counter and got himself another cup of coffee. He looked like a distorted, transposed penguin. His plaid slippers scuffing on the linoleum, his black and white housecoat tied neatly at the waist over top of his pale blue pajama set. His complexion fair and normal. His hair, his black hair, now gray and thin, looking disheveled no matter how often he pat it down. His glasses spotted with fingerprints, and his mustache matching the snow on the top of the mountain, as they say. His eyes, they were not the same. I followed his glance to the garden out back as I put the game back on the bookshelf in the corner of the kitchen. Who put that fountain in the yard? Dad was looking at a small 3-foot feature that proudly spouted a small spray and a whisper of droplets falling in a soothing rhythm that could only be heard if you were sitting in the Muskoka chair next to it. We did, Dad, remember? When I arrived earlier this week, we went to Home Hardware. A blink, another blink, and a breath. Oh, right. Yes. A sip of coffee. I must have been tired and forgot. Are you up for another game, Dad? Scrabble it is, Dad proclaimed as he automatically reached for the cane that was resting against the counter under where the coffee pot was sitting. The wooden cane that had become part of Dad when he would remember to use it. In one hand his coffee, the other the cane which matched his shuffle. That extra support to keep his balance so he would not fall as often. I pull another box from the bookshelf and I return to the kitchen table. Pulling out the wooden letter holders, I look at mine in my hand. These simple little wooden pieces. These things always make me think of pews in a church. The plain wood, the soft curve, and the ridge that allow the letter tiles to rest until called upon to create a new word. My mind drifts just for a moment to the church I was in just days before flying to Ottawa. The beautiful stained glass tableaus all around, the pews, hardwood, carved and polished, and yet somehow in that moment, the most comforting seat I would be able to find. 10 points to start, pipes up Dad proudly as he lays the letter D on a double letter square on the board, followed by R, A, M, A, drama. The comedy and tragedy of life. The irony of this day, the last day that Dad will live in his own home. A day where his balance of clarity and being able to live in the present is the strongest it has been in months. Able to play games, but yet not remember where his own bathroom is in his house. Today and tomorrow I pray the dementia steals these memories first and fast, as to not let him live in the feeling of defeat and humiliation, understanding what has happened, of no longer being home, but having to live in a nursing home for the rest of his days. As if a magic wand was waved over his head, Dad looks up at me with a clarity and a focus in his eyes. He looks me straight in my eyes. Jennifer, I love you and I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Dad. I love you too. In the background, I hear Judy Garland singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Funny how things like a song can connect moments in our lives. Judy sang for Dad and me as we finished our last game of Scrabble, asking for that great question of why, oh why can't I? Judy once again sings for me, just me, as I sit in my car at the funeral home, looking up at the blue sky full of white clouds, the question of why. The memory of that last day we spent in Dad's home, grateful for this song to draw up a bounty of memories, good memories and bad memories, sad and happy. 1 week later, I look across at my opponent, not my dad, but my life partner, and I lay the first letter in my last word on the Scrabble board. Down goes the letter L in this game of Scrabble. I spell out the word that describes the sentiment of sorrow for how my dad spent the last part of his life, and how I am currently feeling in this moment of mine without my dad. L-O-S-T. Lost. And that is the story of Scrabble. And I'm not actually done reading because I have a revision of the very last paragraph. And that revision came around when, much later, in later years, I was invited to share this story in a storytelling group I was a part of in Guelph called the Guelph Guild of Storytellers. And they encouraged me to make it a much more uplifting ending. And since that's part of what my podcast is about, is finding the silver lining in the saddest, hardest times of our lives, which is part of what I'm about. I'm going to read that last revision, and then I have something else I'd like to share with you folks. And then we're going to say goodbye for this week and see what happens next week. So here's the revision. 1 week later, I look across at my opponent, not my dad, but my life partner, and I lay the first letter in my last word on the Scrabble board. Down goes the letter L in this game of Scrabble. I look at the letters on my mini wooden holder. I have two choices. I could spell out the word and sentiment of sorrow for how my dad spent the last part of his life. L-O-S-T, or I can lay down my second option. I look at my partner once more. He smiles at me. I choose to play the second option, which describes what I am currently feeling in this moment, reflecting on memories of my dad. L-O-V-E, love. And, I just, that's the story. And I guess there's a few reasons I wanted to share this story. One, I was wanting to share something today that had a positive uplift to it, but allowed me to address a very difficult thing for people this time of year sometimes, and that's grief. People may be missing people who they weren't able to celebrate the holidays with, or the beginning of a new year without someone, or, someone very close to you is sick and you know that your time is limited. And, these things are all very real, and they are more prominent than possibly any one person may know unless you go through it. So I share because from my own experience, this is my wisdom and this is what I'm offering today. Even in the darkest and the saddest and the hardest parts of our life, we have choice, and we have the power to make decisions. I do want to include that, yes, sorrow has its place. Grief and anger, when you lose someone as important as a parent or someone who's just as close to you, you're allowed to be angry and hurt and cry and scream and feel that agony and that pain. There is a time for that. But if you let that stagnate and stay beyond how long it should be, then it brings you down, and it starts to affect you, and it affects your life, and it affects choices and the outcome of your life. And I know this from experience. And so I had many years of grief counseling, and I had many years of figuring things out. And what I finally figured out was the reason the loss of some people hurts for so long and so deeply. It's not just that there's a hole in your heart and your soul from them not being there anymore, but it is because they're a part of you. And that's an incredible thing when someone imprints into who you are, because that means they're still here. There's still a part of them that exists. And the way that you animate that or bring that back to life is you choose to think of the memories, of the joy, of the love, of the fun, of the hugs, of the celebrations. And you can take a breath. You can choose to think of love instead of feeling lost and angry. Now, some specifics about this story that I'd like to share. is my dad did have dementia. This story is not biographical in that it's not actually what happened, but the components of the story happened. I did visit my dad in Ottawa. He did end up living in a nursing home because his dementia evolved to such a severe state. My father did pass away, and I did sit in a parking lot looking up at the blue sky going, what am I going to do? It took me a long time to work through my grief around my dad and some other things. But then, over time, I realized that he loved me. He really did love me, and there were many ways he showed me. And I guess that's another point I want to bring up, is that love does not always have to be, articulated in words. It doesn't always have to be someone telling you they love you. It can be through a hug, or through an action, or through a gesture. Through all of those things. And so as I wrap up today's episode of sharing this original story, my question goes out to anyone out there who's listening who has lost someone who's very dear to you. If you are struggling with someone in your family who has dementia or another equally devastating disease, and you're watching them and you're losing them before they actually physically die, it's one of the hardest things you can ever do. And I just want to ask you this question. I want to ask you, what are the happiest memories you have of that person? And again, I never expect any responses here. This is for you. I ask these questions for you. And so, once you have those happy memories, I invite you to sit in them. I invite you to enjoy them. And I invite you to share them with those who will benefit, like other family members. It makes me a little sad to know that my brother's children never got to meet Dad. They never knew their grandfather. And maybe one day I'll share this story with them, or maybe one day they'll ask and I'll tell them how great Dad was, despite not being touchy-feely. So, to wrap up, as I always do, I want to invite everybody to remember that every person has influence and every person has magical powers that can change the worst of days to the best of days. And you can do it by sharing your smile, sharing your love, and sharing your laughter. And that could be through playing a game, telling a joke, hugs and kisses, or just a smile. I thank everyone who stayed this long through the whole episode. I hope that you were able to take something away today that lifts your heart a little and maybe reconnects you with a happy memory of maybe someone you've lost or who's going through something. And I guess that's it. Thank you for letting me share my story. Thank you for being here. And I wish everyone an amazing rest of your day, whatever is left of it. And we'll see you next week on Give It a Year. Bye for now.